enchanted backyard hideouts and stunning garden pathway design ideas. In architecture, a backyard is never an afterthought. It is not simply an outdoor extension of the home, but rather a carefully composed retreat, a living canvas where structure and nature merge to form a sanctuary. When I design what I call magical backyard hideaways, I approach the space as if it were a small universe of its own, self-contained, deeply personal, and capable of transforming the ordinary rituals of life into moments of serenity. The design philosophy here is rooted in balance between privacy and openness, between natural elements and crafted details, between stillness and gentle movement. A hideaway begins not with walls, but with atmosphere. My first concern is always the feeling that one encounters when stepping into the space. Privacy matters, but not in the sense of isolation, rather it is about intimacy. I often achieve this with natural enclosures, a pergola heavy with climbing roses, a wall softened by ivy, or a cluster of trees whose branches filter sunlight into golden fragments. Beneath such coverings, a bench, hammock, or daybed is positioned deliberately, not just as seating, but as an invitation. The furniture here is less about formality and more about welcome. Wood often serves as the chosen material, its grain and weathered texture harmonizing with the garden. Yet steel or stone can also find a place if the composition calls for strength or permanence. What matters is dialogue, the way the object converses with its surroundings. Once seating is established, comfort is layered through details. A woven throw, a collection of cushions, or a lantern placed on a low table, all these elements enrich the sensory experience. When I design such corners, I imagine them not empty but occupied. A book resting on the bench, a cup of tea steaming in the cool evening air, a breeze carrying the fragrance of jasmine from nearby trellises. A hideaway is never static, it is meant to be lived in, to accommodate the quiet rhythms of daily life. Vertical gardens and living walls have become essential tools in this architectural vocabulary. They transform fences or blank walls into breathing surfaces, alive with texture and colour. For smaller backyards, they offer intimacy and scale, reducing the sense of exposure and creating the feeling of being enveloped in green. They also serve a more practical role, improving air quality, cooling the environment, and supporting biodiversity. Yet beyond utility, their presence introduces wonder, a wall that blossoms, shifts, and evolves with the seasons. Paired with water features, these gardens form a symphony. A fountain trickling into a stone basin or a koi pond reflecting the sky produces sound and movement that anchor the design. Water, after all, is the most ancient architectural element. It calms, it draws, it reflects. Lighting is another essential medium, one that transforms the space after dusk into something ethereal. I rarely think of light purely as function. A lamp or fixture is less important than the atmosphere it creates. String lights draped through tree branches, lanterns placed at intervals along a wall, or solar-powered path lights tucked into the ground, each casts a different glow, each tells a different story. When the garden is illuminated in this way, it ceases to be merely a yard. It becomes a stage where shadows and highlights dance, where the familiar takes on mystery. The hideaway is not meant to exist in isolation, but as part of a greater composition. Paths guide us there, but in the hideaway itself, the journey ends in pause. To sit beneath a pergola with roses cascading around, to lean back in a hammock while listening to a bubbling fountain, to see the world through the lens of a soft lantern's glow. These are not casual experiences. They are architectural experiences. They are design pauses in the tempo of life. As an architect, I often speak of rhythm, and in backyard design, the rhythm is created through these deliberate contrasts: enclosure and openness, shadow and light, texture and stillness. Each hideaway becomes a verse in the larger poem of the garden. No two are alike, because no two lives are alike. Some prefer solitude. For them, the design may be minimal, restrained, even austere. Others crave lushness and romance. Here I weave blossoms, textures and scents into a tapestry of abundance. In either case, the intention is the same: to create a personal haven that supports well-being, one that is both functional and enchanting. It is also important to understand that these hideaways are not luxuries. In a world that accelerates each day, that demands more of our attention and energy, the garden hideaway becomes a necessity. It restores equilibrium, it reintroduces stillness. Whether one uses it for reading, meditation, conversation, or silence, the hideaway serves as an anchor, a reminder of balance, of beauty, of connection to nature. It is, in the truest sense, architectural wellness made tangible. Thus, in the design of magical backyard hideaways, I am not simply arranging objects in space. I am composing an experience. I am curating intimacy, weaving comfort into structure, allowing light and water and greenery to speak in harmony. Every bench placed beneath a tree, every vertical garden that climbs a wall, every lantern that flickers at twilight, each is part of a deliberate orchestration. Together, they create more than shelter, they create enchantment. And that enchantment, once experienced, lingers not only in the garden, but within the mind and spirit of those who inhabit it. The journey through a backyard is never simply about arriving at a destination. It is equally about the act of moving, of being led, of discovering. When I design garden paths, I approach them not as corridors, but as narratives. They are the lines that structure the story of the garden, and every material, curve, and planting is chosen with the deliberate intention of guiding both the body and the imagination. A path, in its essence, is the rhythm that carries us through space. And in 2025, it is being reimagined not only as functional infrastructure, but as an experience in its own right. The materiality of a path is the first voice it speaks with. Natural stone, laid irregularly, carries with it the weight of time and permanence. Each slab bears its own character, veins of colour, textures formed over centuries, offering an elegance that feels both enduring and timeless. Walking such a path is to be reminded of history, of permanence, of the way architecture converses with the earth itself. Gravel, on the other hand, introduces a softer, more informal note. The crunch beneath one's feet is not noise but music, an audible reminder of each step, lending rhythm to the act of walking. Wooden planks, carefully set to weather with grace, articulate a modern simplicity. They emphasize clean lines, precision, and a conversation between the organic grain of wood and the surrounding foliage. Each material creates not only a different aesthetic, but a different emotional tempo. But form matters as much as material. A straight path delivers one with clarity and certainty. It belongs in spaces where geometry and order are celebrated. Its strength is in its decisiveness, its sense of purpose. A curved path, by contrast, offers invitation rather than instruction. It suggests mystery, the possibility of something unseen just around the bend. It slows the pace, encouraging one to linger, to anticipate. In small gardens, such curves create an illusion of depth and distance, allowing the space to feel larger, layered, and more intriguing. The act of turning a corner, of discovering a new vignette, is not only physical, but emotional, as if the garden itself were revealing secrets gradually, thoughtfully. To design a path without planting is to leave it incomplete. The edges of a path are frames, and what fills them is what breathes life into the composition. Lavender, for instance, introduces both fragrance and movement. Its blossoms sway gently with the wind, its scent rising with every brush of a hand or step. Ornamental grasses provide texture and sound, their blades whispering with even the lightest breeze. Creeping thyme, allowed to spill between stepping stones, softens edges and perfumes the air underfoot. Moss, when cultivated between stone joints, introduces a sense of age and belonging, as if the path had emerged naturally from the ground rather than having been laid upon it. Even light has its role here. To walk a path by day is one kind of journey. To walk it by night is entirely another. I often integrate subtle illumination, LED lights set flush into the ground, glow-in-the-dark pebbles sprinkled along the edges, or lanterns placed at intervals like beacons. These details transform the evening walk into something extraordinary, layering enchantment onto what is otherwise routine. The path becomes less about movement and more about memory, less about direction and more about experience. It is no longer only the way to the hideaway, it is part of the hideaway itself. Beyond aesthetics, paths fulfill their structural role. They provide order to the garden, guiding not only footsteps, but also sightlines. A well-positioned path directs the gaze, orchestrating what is revealed first, what is withheld until later. It ensures that movement is purposeful, yet never monotonous. In my designs, I often think of the path as choreography. It determines tempo, pause, and crescendo. It tells you where to slow down, where to pause for a view, where to prepare for surprise. It ensures that the garden is not consumed all at once, but savoured, much like a well-composed piece of music. Sustainability now weaves itself into these choices with increasing urgency. Paths of permeable stone or pavers that absorb rainwater, reduce runoff, and echo ecological responsibility. Reclaimed wood planks honour both aesthetics and environmental stewardship. Even the choice of local stone rather than imported material tells a story of care for the land, grounding the design not only in beauty but in ethics. In this way, a path is more than structure, it is a statement, a reflection of values. To illustrate, imagine a sequence. One steps through a wooden gate framed in ivy, the sound of gravel crunching beneath their feet. The path curves, bordered by lavender whose fragrance rises as the sunlight warms it. At intervals, stepping stones break the gravel, their joints softened with time that releases aroma underfoot. A turn to the left reveals a small fountain, its water catching the light. The path narrows, bordered now by tall grasses that sway like curtains before finally opening into the hideaway, a bench beneath a canopy of lights. Every material, every curve, every plant has been chosen not in isolation, but as part of a narrative arc. The walk is not incidental, it is the experience. As an architect, I believe that these garden paths embody a philosophy that is as old as design itself, that movement through space should always carry meaning. To walk is not merely to go from one point to another, it is to inhabit, to engage, to perceive. A garden without paths may be beautiful, but it lacks rhythm. With paths, beauty becomes accessible, curated and sequential. It becomes an unfolding rather than a display. Thus, in shaping paths, I shape stories. Each material, each curve, each light is a word, a phrase, a sentence. Together they create a narrative that leads not only through space, but into emotion. And when the journey ends, when one arrives at the hideaway, the destination is richer because of the path taken. The path and the hideaway are not separate entities, but complementary gestures, two halves of a single architectural composition, each giving meaning to the other. When the path and the hideaway finally meet, the garden transcends its role as a collection of features and becomes a unified composition, a lived architecture of experience. This integration is where design evolves from arrangement into artistry. The path provides the journey, the hideaway provides the pause, and together they create a rhythm of movement and stillness, discovery and retreat. This rhythm is what transforms a backyard from a static environment into a living narrative, an immersive retreat that unfolds each time it is entered. The true strength of this design philosophy lies in integration. It is never enough for a garden to contain separate elements of beauty. The value comes when these elements are composed into dialogue. The winding path, edged with blossoms, does not exist simply to lead. It exists to prepare the mind for arrival. The hideaway, secluded beneath climbing vines, is not merely a seat. It is the destination that makes the path meaningful. Each informs the other, shaping an experience that is whole rather than fragmented. This interplay is what makes a backyard feel enchanting rather than ornamental, alive rather than static. Functionality plays a role as profound as beauty. A path ensures movement flows easily, guiding people without confusion, connecting spaces logically and gracefully. The hideaway, meanwhile, anchors activity, giving purpose to the journey. It may serve as a space for morning solitude, where a cup of coffee becomes a ritual. It may host an evening gathering of family, where laughter is sheltered beneath string lights. Or it may provide a silent corner for meditation, where water trickles nearby and the world feels momentarily hushed. Each use is personal, but the architecture ensures that the experience is supported with grace. This personalization is perhaps the defining mark of backyard magic today. No two hideaways are the same because no two lives are the same. The materials chosen, the layout of the path, the density of planting, all reflect the values of those who inhabit the space. For one homeowner, sustainability may guide every decision. Permeable pavers that absorb rainwater, native plants that thrive without excess irrigation, reclaimed wood that tells its own story of renewal. For another, aesthetics may reign supreme. Roses chosen for their fragrance, lavender for its calming presence, lighting designed with theatrical precision. Both approaches are equally valid, for each speaks to the lives and desires of those who dwell there. As an architect, I often view these choices as extensions of identity. A garden is never generic, it is autobiographical. Each corner reveals something of its owner, how they value time, how they find peace, how they wish to be inspired. This is why I design not for uniformity, but for resonance. A successful hideaway is not one that follows fashion, but one that feels inevitable, as though it could belong nowhere else but here, to no one else but these people. Lighting, once again, becomes the language that extends personalization into time. A hideaway may glow softly with lanterns for those who seek romance, or blaze with structured spotlights for those who favor clarity and modern precision. A path may twinkle subtly with embedded lights for quiet nighttime strolls, or be outlined with bold fixtures that make evening gatherings vibrant and alive. In each choice, the experience shifts, the mood transforms, the garden's personality emerges. The essence of these designs, however, is not in their physical components, but in their capacity to create memory. When a child runs along a gravel path lit by tiny ground lights, when a couple shares conversation beneath a pergola heavy with blossoms, when someone pauses at dawn with coffee in hand to listen to a fountain's murmur, these are not decorations. They are moments of life, given stage and structure by design. They are architecture at its most intimate, shaping not cities or skylines, but the rhythm of everyday living. In an increasingly hurried world, these backyard sanctuaries remind us of what is essential: the need to slow down, to reconnect with the natural world, to find beauty not in grandeur, but in the simplest gestures. The magic of a garden hideaway lies in its ability to make time expand, to turn a minute of stillness into a memory that lingers. The dreaminess of a garden path lies in its ability to transform movement into exploration, to make even the most familiar backyard feel like a journey of discovery. This is why I say that such designs are not luxuries, but necessities. They are not indulgences, but answers to a deeper human need. The need for refuge, for restoration, for beauty woven into daily life. By combining thoughtful lighting, natural textures, sustainable practices, and carefully orchestrated layouts, we are not merely shaping land, we are shaping the way people live, rest, and connect. The garden becomes not a backdrop, but a participant in life itself. Ultimately, the philosophy of magical backyard hideaways and dreamy garden paths is about experience. It is about crafting spaces where one feels transported, even if only a few steps from the back door. It is about layering nature and structure so delicately that the line between them dissolves, leaving only the feeling of being held, embraced, inspired. This is the architecture I practice, an architecture that is not only seen, but lived, not only admired, but remembered. And when the lights glow softly at dusk, when the path curves gently toward the secluded bench, when fragrance lingers in the air and silence is softened by water's murmur, then the garden is complete. Not because it is finished, but because it has become alive.